Welcome to the Good Life, Great Careers podcast. My name is Brian Civic, and I am the Director of Workforce Training and Development for the state of Nebraska. I'm joined today again by my co-host, Caitlin Betts, who is the Director of Talent Acquisition for the state of Nebraska. Our goal with this podcast is to help evangelize the many career opportunities within state government. There are literally hundreds of career opportunities right now with Nebraska state government. Many people don't realize Nebraska state government is one of the largest and most diverse employers in the state when it comes to career opportunities. And so to check out any of these opportunities with Nebraska state government, go to statejobs.nebraska.gov and click on the Find a State Job link. And we'll talk about that again at the very end of the podcast. But joining us today is to share a little bit about her own career journey as well as opportunities within her agency is Jasmine Gruhn.
Yep.
Correct? Okay,
yeah.
Good. Got it right. Jasmine is currently the Director of Talent Management for the Department of Education. And so, Jasmine, welcome and thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to join us today to talk about your career journey and the opportunities with your agency. So let's start off by just learning a little bit more about Jasmine. Tell us about who you are and a little bit about your career journey.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I joined the state almost 6 years ago. I took like a 4-month path off of the state, and then ended up coming back because apparently I missed it a heck of a lot. I went to my undergrad at UNL and got my bachelor's in business administration, and then got my MBA from Doane, the state paid for. So that was exciting. And then I have like the SHRM. I actually took the test for SCP and the SCP. The state also paid for that, so those are great perks and benefits. And kind of worked my way through starting as like a talent acquisition specialist. I remember my boss at the time, Joel, he asked me in my phone interview, like, what's your dream job? And I was like, well, the one that I applied for, like literally. And I've kind of just worked my way through that and kind of continued adding in more responsibilities and more things. And now I'm the Director of Talent Management.
That's awesome. So talent management, what else does that involve?
Yeah. When I was coming back, we were kind of, they built out the role a little bit more. And we were kind of considering that too, like Director of Talent Acquisition, or like they didn't think that was quite enough, I guess. So the talent management portion also incorporates some things that are kind of pseudo acquisition, like onboarding and things like that. But I also will start working more with performance management and employee success, I guess, just kind of all of that talent management.
Could you share a little bit about the Department of Education and what they do? I think people probably maybe have an idea. Mm-hmm. Everybody's heard of the Department of Education, but maybe share a little bit in a broad sense of what the role of your agency is, and then maybe something that people don't realize, or some unique things that people don't think of.
We do a variety of things. Probably what most people think about is like the curriculum in schools and working on those kinds of things, but we also work with providing leadership and guidance to all of those like programs like special education, MTSS, federal programs for like migrant students or high-risk students. Of course, the curriculum for teaching and learning, also assessments, like assisting schools and teachers with all of those kinds of things. We just have such a variety, like pretty much anything in a school that you can think of, like school nutrition, the school lunch program, summer food program, school safety. Like we just have so many things that we help schools and teachers with across the state. And then one thing that a lot of people think when I mention my job is I don't hire teachers in the schools. The schools take care of that. We do end up hiring a lot of teachers from schools because then they come to us to do curriculum and be the specialists with that. But we don't have any involvement in those things. We do like teacher certification. That's probably the closest thing. So that's kind of the main portion that I think everybody thinks about. However, we also have Nebraska VR, which is also partnered with the Assistive Technology Partnership, and both of those teams work with people with disabilities. Nebraska VR helps people with disabilities find jobs or retain jobs that they've already had or move up in their current jobs. We just got our Career Pathways Advancement Project grant renewed early this year. And that group works with businesses to help train their employees with disabilities so that they can retain them and move up and then maybe backfill, ideally, with more VR clients. They also work with students in schools to help them prepare for like life after high school with disability. And then ATP is part of that team, and they work with people with disabilities to help them find and use assistive technology. So a lot of things that people without disabilities take for advantage, like showering or getting into your house or going to bed or driving to work, or all of those things, that's what assistive technology helps with. And then we also have the Disability Determination Services, and they're under Social Security Administration, and they work to adjudicate claims for disability so that people of Nebraska can get that disability income and kind of help with that financial support, I guess, for people with disabilities. So we have quite a mix.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's things in there. Yeah. I had no clue.
Yep. Yeah.
How large is the agency? How many teammates do you have?
Yeah, we have on average probably about 525 or so.
Okay.
Sometimes, we dip lower and sometimes we get higher. That's kind of the average.
That does sound like quite a mix and a fairly good-sized agency. Yeah. So your role with talent acquisition, are you recruiting for all of those areas? And what does that look like for you?
Yeah, at any given time, like right now, I think I have 45 requisitions or something that are in different stages of the process. And we do hire, like I just posted, a youth tobacco prevention specialist, and I also posted an office associate for our career and technical education. We also have like our data team members that we always post for. So we kind of fill all over the department. The only thing we don't really do is like those really high level positions. I did assist with our deputy commissioner last year posting, but then like if our commissioner is needing a replace, then they usually hire a search firm, which is probably good because that'd be a lot.
Recruiting has changed a lot over the last 6 years that you have been involved with it. How has that impacted, and what do you do differently now than maybe you did when you started?
Yeah. When I started, the role had changed a little bit from when the person that I replaced left. She retired and she had been with us forever, and she kind of collected the documents and made sure everything was complete. Kind of assisted with the process. When I started, that's kind of how I started, and then more worked on better compliance to make sure that the process was complete and that we got all of like our interview rubrics and things like that. Then I slowly started making sure that those interview rubrics or application rubrics were really structured so that we can demonstrate fair and equitable hiring processes. So now I also am very customer service oriented. So I try to make, I love recruiting. Hiring managers don't necessarily love recruiting. So I try to make it as easy as possible for them. So I really try and do as much of the process as possible. They don't have to make their own application rubrics anymore. I send them interview questions to pick from that are already vetted. I help them with their ideal answers if they need help. I do all of the postings now that we're kind of working more with DAS on kind of a shared cooperation, I guess, of those, putting together better supplemental questions, all really at the end of the day to make the hiring process as complex as it is a little bit easier for managers, and then also more engaging and fair for candidates so that we put out a good image of our agency too and get good people.
What would you say, if you had to summarize, the most rewarding aspect of your job? What gets you out of bed in the morning, keeps you going?
Yeah, I've been trying to think of one thing. I really enjoy our team. Obviously, not everybody can work on our team, so I didn't really feel like that was a great reason. The work-life balance is really good, but I also really enjoy problem solving. Like any time I'm doing anything, really, I'm looking for a way to like make something smoother or make it more efficient or fix a problem or make my life easier. I love doing that. So I think just the complexity of it all and the multitasking, and I guess I just like being busy, and there's always plenty to do at the state. So, but we also still have that good work-life balance and then great people that we work with. So it all kind of combines together to create a good reason.
It's definitely a challenging time to be in talent acquisition, and you mentioned, lack of candidates. What would you say to someone that hadn't considered a career in public service and encourage them to check it out?
Yeah, I actually do that fairly often. And what I tell my hiring managers too is candidates right now are looking for culture, pay, and benefits. They want to make sure that they're happy where they work, and safe, like stable where they work. And we really have a great culture. Our benefits really can't be beaten. I mean, I look at other companies in the private sector and see their benefits, and not even close. So that's great. And I think we're all kind of working on improving pay too, to kind of match the market. Since it's government, things can move slower than some people like. But I really think that the state cares. Obviously, we're providing a public service for Nebraskans, and then we really care for our employees as well. So we do as much as we can to make sure that they're taken care of. So that's kind of the broad thing, but sometimes I'll talk about like, well, you get Saturdays and Sundays off if you're at not corrections or things where you do have to work different shifts, or the retirement benefits. Like we were just having a conversation about retirement last night, and people at my house, my husband, my parents, were talking about how they've put in like, I don't know, $2,000 we'll say this year, and they have like a $14 like balance. And I was like, well, at the state we get a 5% cash benefit no matter what, so at least 5%. So
yeah, my quarterly statement arrived the other day, and it's always exciting to see that it continues growing even when
exactly
maybe things aren't so great in other places.
So. And then like you don't have to pay out of pocket crazy amounts for benefit like health and things like that, depending on your plan obviously, but overall just your life is better.
Yeah. Well, and earlier you mentioned the work-life balance, the leave as well, the holidays.
Yeah.
Yep, there's a lot.
That's another thing is the leave is not comparable anywhere else, or holidays, and especially now that we've added a 13th holiday, like you just can't compete with that.
What would you say is your favorite benefit? You've mentioned a lot of really good ones, but
yeah, I think it might depend on the day. Like I kind of forgot that the state paid for my master's, and then when student loans and things come up, then I'm like, yeah, that was definitely great. Maybe the professional development, I guess, if I try to summarize things, because I also got both my certifications through the state in my position, and I didn't have to pay for those. We get to go to conferences. We have the LinkedIn Learning subscription, and I have too many interests that I'm like, yeah, that looks good, and I can't watch them all at once. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is just, even though there wasn't like positional growth when I started, I've definitely had positional growth just because I've worked towards it. But even if I didn't move positionally, I still would have moved intellectually because I got to pursue all of those opportunities.
For your agency right now, do you know off the top of your head approximately how many openings you have?
11 are posted right now, as of a couple hours ago. But I have 6 or 7 that are in process to be posted, and then probably another 6 or 7 that are like working through classifications or things that are a little bit slower, but hopefully coming up. And then you hear more and more like talent acquisition people talking about the Great Resignation. So there is increased resignation, so increased postings. But another thing that I worry about as like a recruiter, you'll probably see a lot of VR or DDS postings because DDS is directed by SSA. They say you can hire 6 positions right now and you need to fill them in 2 months. And then VR was on a hiring freeze a few years ago that was lifted probably about COVID time. So we're working on filling all of those that we weren't able to fill before, in addition to resignations. So sometimes I'm like, I think people are going to worry about, why do they have so many? It's like, it's just because we're adding, really. Yeah.
You mentioned some of the really great things about working for state government. What was your impression of state government before you started, and what has surprised you about your career in public service?
I remember applying for things at the state when I was still in college and things like that. At that time, I remember thinking like, geez, they pay better than anybody else for entry level. Like, there's no way I could go be a secretary at a private company and make 14 something an hour, which has now increased. I think, though, I probably thought like, I don't know, like drones or like people that just slug back and forth to the office all the time.
Stereotypes.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably what I did subconsciously. But since joining, like, there's just so many personalities and so many people. And then you start to learn other, like, even working with you, Caitlin, and learning more about talent acquisition, and then the partnership kind of between DAS and I kind of worked with even like city county HR on things, and just building that network, I guess. And then just the people are not drones. They don't slug back and forth to work. They are hilarious. They are empathetic. You really start to make friends with the people, and everybody is great.
Yeah, I would agree 100%.
Yeah.
And that's been my experience. And I just, since I came back from back in 2020, prior to that, there is very much a siloed mentality. And that's always going to exist to some extent.
Yeah.
But it feels like those walls are really being torn
Right.
down. And where we are one employer.
Yes.
We are
love
Team
that.
Nebraska.
I
Yes.
love the social media that
Yep.
you guys are doing and all that.
And I have a great team. I don't want to lose any of them, but
Yeah.
if one of them would leave one day, I hope they go to another agency. I want to keep that talent within Nebraska state government. And actually, I have somebody on my team that I stole from another agency.
We get a lot of people from other state agencies, and I do the reference checks, and every time I hear a supervisor like, well, I want to give them a bad reference because I don't want them to leave, or I really can't deal with it without her and stuff like that, or and I'm like, I'm sorry, but we still want them.
It is one of the great things, though,
Yeah.
about the state is that there's so much opportunity, even if it does span one agency to another. It means maybe that somebody's losing someone great. We're retaining them in the state, and you can come in and grow your career in so many different ways. It's definitely a positive thing.
Are there any positions you have in your agency right now that are maybe kind of a pain point from the standpoint of trying to fill that you would like to evangelize, that maybe for whatever reason, maybe it's a challenge, maybe misperceptions or whatever?
We do have a few data positions right now. A senior ETL developer, a senior business intelligence analyst, I think is the title. Maybe it's developer, BI developer. I think IT and data roles are perpetually hard to fill. Those are very skilled roles, but with a special kind of skill. That's not necessarily easy to learn. So those ones are always hard. The financial roles are hard to fill too. We have like a office associate for financial services. It's actually a new role, but for some reason those roles are always also super hard to fill. That one just came down, but I think they're going to repost it or consider reevaluating it before reposting it because it's been posted a few times. And then I think just the roles in the western part of the state, because we have offices all over, just like most other agencies, so kind of the less populated areas. So we have our Grand Island office we've become very friendly because they have some vacancies that actually moved to different VR teams, and then we're trying to fill them in addition to the freeze positions that are now open and available. So I think we've had 4 or 5 in that office in the last 6 months or so that we've been working on. And sometimes those positions, like our service and rehab specialists, require a degree per statute. So that kind of makes things tough because the people that are moving off to Lincoln or Omaha for their degrees don't necessarily move back to like Pierce, Nebraska or Grand Island or things like that. So those kind of make it difficult. But
if our listeners if they're listening to this and, hey, I want to learn more about Department of Education, I want to learn more about that agency, I want to learn more about then opportunities there too, where else could they go to learn about your agency?
Our website is education.ne.gov, and that really has a lot of things. Probably the front page is more educator focused, but like if you click on our commissioner page, then that really talks more about the agency, and that site is huge. I mean, you can find so many things on there. And then our job posting site, I actually made a shorter one, so because those are really long, so that we could put them on like social media pictures. So that we used Bitly, so it's just bit.ly/join NDE, and I think NDE is capitalized. But I try to give as much information to like candidates and things too. So really, like there's a contact form on our website on education.ne.gov, and then it can get to the right office. Our communication team does a good job of getting it to Teacher Cert or HR or whoever. So we do get quite a few questions from the public about either jobs or obviously the ones I usually get, or benefits, or somehow we get a lot of DHHS people that reach out to us and we're like, sorry, I can't help you. I can't see you. Like I can't see your record.
Do you have, are there social media channels too?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have, our agency kind of does things a little bit weird. So we have like one LinkedIn page, Nebraska Department of Education. But then we have different Twitter and Facebook pages for like the different sections and areas. So we have a NDE Human Resources Facebook, and then NDE HR Twitter. I'm trying to remember. I don't think we ever actually got around to like Snapchat or Instagram or anything. But then we also have like just general Nebraska Department of Education Twitter and Nebraska Department of Education Facebook that are run by our communications team. And they kind of wanted to separate that out, I think, so that we all post so much. We all have so much to share with our stakeholders that I think it was probably easier for them to separate them out.
Are they on the website, you know?
Yes, they should be. Yeah.
Okay.
And they should actually have, I have it bookmarked on my laptop, but I think they have a list of like every programmer area that you might be looking for, and then their relative Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, and then some have YouTube pages. So I think it actually has it all laid out and linked so that you can kind of click, and if you're looking for human resources, you go here. If you're looking for school nutrition, you go here. And so, yeah.
Well, as you may know, if you've listened to the podcast before we end, we'd love to put you on the hot seat. Yeah. So I will start off with an easy one. Coke or Pepsi? Well, I thought it was easy.
Yeah. I'm not a super picky person. I don't like ice in them. I like to be hot and warm. Yes. But a lot of people laugh because if they're like, you want something? And I'm like, yeah, it's something Diet Dark. That's all I like, Diet Dark. For some reason, regular gives me a stomach ache. So Coke is a little bit sweeter. So I guess maybe Pepsi.
Mountains or the beach?
Beach. I'm pretty sure I was supposed to be in Hawaii my whole life, but I apparently can't work in Hawaii for Nebraska. That would be weird. The time zone change is hard too. Yeah.
If you had to change your first name, what would you change it to?
I was supposed to be named Jewel, but when my mom was like feeling that out, it wasn't approved. So that's probably one, but we also have a running joke in my family because when I was little, I tried to rename myself Paprika. So if you ask my dad, he would say Paprika. So, yeah.
Who would play you in a movie?
That's hard. I tried to think, I was listening to a different podcast about like doppelgangers, and I was trying to think of somebody. I don't really know anybody that looks like me, I guess. So I'll take your advice there. I don't know.
Oh, now we're on the hot seat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Brian, it's to you.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as like attitude, I don't know. Like Jennifer Lawrence is pretty funny. And I think she's pretty like, whatever, I'll eat pizza or something on camera. But I definitely don't look like her. She's gorgeous. So, and not to say that I'm not gorgeous, but we're different.
How about your favorite band?
It's not necessarily a band. I mean, he has a band. I am also not picky on bands, but I will always advocate for Jimmy Buffett. I grew up as a parrot head. My dad's a big parrot head. When he came to Lincoln several years ago, we all went and got like hats with a parrot. I think they lit up. So I always advocate for him. But I really listen to almost anything except for polka. I don't like polka.
Okay. Do you have a go-to karaoke song?
No, but I do know all the words to Traveling Soldier by Dixie Chicks. I don't think they're called, I think they're just the Chicks now. Because I think it was third grade, we did the song for a talent show or something, so I learned all the words, and for some reason they're still in there. Can't remember how old I am, but I know all the words to Traveling Soldier.
Any final advice you would give to someone looking to start or grow their career?
I think don't sell yourself short. Obviously, don't embellish, but I help people with resumes sometimes just in my own like social circle. And a lot of times it's me just helping them. Like, they're like, I don't do anything. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're an office manager for this whole area. You do everything. Like, you coordinate everything. So it's really using the right words to have the meaning that you want to make sure that you're demonstrating your best qualities to kind of get in front of people. As far as the state jobs, my advice is usually complete your application accurately and detailed and do the supplemental questions with detail, because that really helps us too with our equity and making sure that we're evaluating each candidate on the same things. It's not like, oh, you turned in a cover letter because you're better, so you're better, and you didn't turn in a cover letter, so you must not be as qualified. It's like, nope, we're asking you about your accounting and your accounts payable or your experience in schools or whatever, and each candidate gets the same question, and it makes everything fair for everybody as long as you answer it.
Good advice. Well, Jasmine, thank you again for your time today. It's been fun learning more about your role as well as the Department of Education. For our listeners, if you want to check out the great career opportunities available with the state of Nebraska, including those with the Nebraska Department of Education, go to statejobs.nebraska.gov and click on that Find a State Job link. When you're there, you can also find links to our social media pages for Nebraska State Jobs. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. We'd love to have you follow us there to learn more about those great careers as well. You can also check us out on YouTube. Just search for the Nebraska Department of Administrative Services, and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you're notified of those future podcast episodes. Again, on behalf of our guest, Jasmine, my co-host, Brian, and myself, Caitlin, I want to thank you for tuning in and learning more about the great careers here in the Good Life.